we on page number 50?
여기 이제 일체지 그렇게 하면
Here, when we say Buddha's wisdom,
그렇게 한다 그러죠, 그죠? 일체 동지나 같은 말이고 이제 깨달음이나 같은
same as
말인데,
all knowledge, is same as enlightenment. What is Buddha's wisdom or what is all knowledge?
사실상 그냥 모든 걸 안다 이렇게
In reality, it means knowing everything.
우리는 이렇게 생각하는 그러면
We might also think
것을
that was Buddha aware of driving, but that is part of knowledge.
오셔가지고 운전을 배우지 않으면 부처께서 운전을 하실까? 그러나
Buddha didn't come to this generation and learn driving, but will he know about driving? But Buddha is well aware of the right and wrong of the driving. But when you are talking about these functional matters, through the act of driving, what causes suffering and what causes happiness, we cannot identify this. For us, we just think that it is a right act to drive. Through the act of driving, we're not aware what causes happiness or what causes agony and what are the things that we should not do. But Buddha is aware of this.
생각을 갖다 좀 더 이제 여러분께서 막연하게 이렇게 갖지 말고 좀 명료하게 자꾸 이제 의식을.
So you should not have a very vague idea about the Buddha's wisdom, but there is need to concentrate and identify its right meaning. You're hiding behind this whiteboard.
일체지는 대상에 대한 마음의 인식 능력을
All knowledge
그러니까
is a status where you have fully developed the heart consciousness on the object.
갖고 있어야 되는데 명료하게 파악을 갖다
We should have an precise thoughts on the object, but we are not able to have a precise idea. But we identify the other person depending on our greed. That is not all knowledge. If you take it from other direction, then if I'm giving up all of my greed, and if I am able to observe the opponent or the object in a real way, then you realize how void and because of what reason it causes suffering, and from what action can it cause happiness. You were able to identify those.
자기 욕심이나 욕망이 너무 강해서 아집이 강해서
sometimes the agony is caused by, or sometimes our consciousness is not very clear because our greed is too high or too much, and you think of other actions or objects depending on your greed. So in that way, you are also not able to see your husband or your kids' nature as they are, depending on your condition or depending on your idea. You'll see the other person. You're not able to view the other person apart from your own greed. And also, you're not able to take the situation that you meet through the relations. And also, if you're aware of the fact that depending on the relation or cause and effect, you're separating with the other person, you will have no obsession in this human relationships and also in other things that is surrounding your life. That you should know. So it's very important to have a precise consciousness. It should not be precise just by words, but unless until you give up all of your greed, it's not possible. So if you are still greedy, or if you haven't given up your greed, then no matter how much you try, it's not possible to see the other person as they are.
뭘 해놨다든지
So no matter how much you emphasize or no matter how much you talk about it,
실제적으로 그게
it just becomes a thought that is caused from your head, but it's a different from reality. It's a different from a fact.
지금 내가 세세하게 풀어서 이제 이렇게 설명을
You're not able to see as it is. Why do I tell this in detail?
마치
Um,
천년의 동굴
One of the scholars said
불을 비친 것과 같다.
it's almost like lighting a cave which was dark for 1,000 years.
다 사라져서
If my greed disappeared in an instant,
마치
and when I saw the other object,
깜깜했던 굴 속에
it was just like
불 갑자기 킨
um,
것처럼
it was just like lighting a very dark cave.
그게 잘
I could see everything.
갖다 해놓은 거예요. 근데
So since it was difficult for him to tell what it was exactly, so he made this comparison. So our greed is the dark cave, and
필요한 것을 찾을 뿐이지 실제로는 그
no matter how much, when it's dark, no matter how much we try to find, we are not able to find what we want to find. We are not able to see it. No matter how open your eyes, or no matter how much you think, it's not possible to see. That's why blind people,
본다든지 또는 손을 가지고 들어도
even if they are glasses or even if they try to feel with your hands or by sound,
각가지 색깔을 볼 수가 없는 것과
they are not able to see different colors, the same as it. Although they say it's red, they have no idea what is red.
시각장애인 같은 경우는 그
Those people who were blind ever since they were born, then they don't know what is red color. So no matter how much we tell them it's a color red, they're not able to get it.
두고서는 천하의
So if we just leave out all the greed and in all comments, and if we no matter how much we tell them what color it is, they're not able to see it. That's why in a practice, my greed and my wish should be left out, and that should be the starting point, and our ending point or our target point is also the same.
모두가 좀 가라앉히는 데는 조금 도움을 줄지 몰라도
Morality doesn't help here.
이 지구상의 반 이상이 범죄자가 되어버립니다.
If it's only the morality, then more than half of our world's population becomes criminals. Why don't you come and do offering in a temple? It's a bad thing. That means if we say that, the moment we say that, then everyone who does not offer in the temple becomes all criminals. But it's not so. So we cannot judge something depending on the moral values.
우리가 볼 때는 공자 얘기
So even what Confucius said is about those.
도덕 수준도 기독교 도덕 수준 그런 거하고는 그 게임이 안 될 정도로
It's also different from the Christian morality, but what Confucius has also said can only be said as a moral status and not of those that can be compared to Buddhist teaching. So during the time of Confucius, it was a young dynasty, but everyone ended up fighting against each other. And also it's similar to our Joseon time when we almost sold our country. It all happened because of the conflict between two different sects and powers. So nowadays we say that do not just portray all your greed, but in reality when we are seeing it's almost like you're in a very dark cave. You're wearing a perfect suit, and you're bowing to us, but you're not able to see it because it's a dark cave. Especially Buddhas in Asian countries. They try to make you see to the inner self. They try hard not to let yourself fooled by the shadows. So from the act of looking at everything that you do is it's just mere shadows. Through all the shadows we're fooled and we live, and this is something like they live in a dark cave. So this kind of things.
한 부처님 두 부처님하고 인연이 있었던 사람이 아니라 그거 믿는 것 자체도 안 돼.
So this kind of thing, which is morality and religious things, it just compare it. It's almost like just having a knowledge on the Diamond Sutra.
항상 뭐라 하면 또 머릿속에서 꾀를
Even while you practice your moral values, you try to identify and you try to make judgment whether it's right or wrong. And those who are a little more clever, they become the teachers. They become
문선 안국인가 뭐 그런 선 교주가 된다.
they become like religious leaders.
그런 것들은 안 돼.
These things are not acceptable.
하는 것도 아니야 전부 다. 이거는 이제
Everyone gathered here is also not trying to become a religious leader.
조직을 만들기 위해 쓴 것도 전혀 아니고.
But they never try to make any organizations or associations.
공부하는 것은 좀 효과가 있다 그래서
Just that he just thought it was effective to gather around and study. But
할 정도 된 사람은 가섭존자 같이 된 사람은 혼자 가라고 했어. 둘도 못 가게 했어.
but Buddha said if you are able to study on your own, go alone. He didn't even allow people to go in twos.
서로 협상을 하고 이런 것은
So all the negotiations and discussion, if after understanding, it's only for benefits. They got nothing to do with morality or religious belief. This kind of thing starts from your heart. The religious attitude or attribute start from the moment you start giving up all the greed from your heart. It's not the right way.
그래서 마음의 인식 능력을 완전히 개발한 상태입니다. 그런 의미에서 일체는 시간과 공간에 구애받지
In this regard, Buddha's knowledge or Buddha's wisdom is not conditioned by time and space, but it's able to know everything respectively.
사람들이 희한하게 살대.
It's the same. Even nowadays,
오해하는 게도 없느냐면 그렇게 살 수밖에 없는 자연적.
a lot of people think, oh, Indian people live in a strange way. But I thought there was nothing strange about it because the condition that they live is because of their external conditions which surround them.
같이 우리와 똑같이 육도 윤회는 중생이 다 똑같이 고통을 받는 것 같이. 그래서 또 우리
It's the same like even the Indians, they also have a suffering like us. They have all the six parameters. They all follow six parameters, and also they're not as rich as us or they're not as material, wealthy like us. But they have a lot of things which are way better than us in terms of religion. So just because of a different color or a different in the food that we eat is not different.
그러니까 시간과 공간을 구애받지 않는다. 그거는
So it's not conditioned by the time and the space.
말씀이 이미 증명이 되어졌어. 뭐냐면
This statement has already been proven because this Buddhism originated from India. But if just like Jainism, if it was a religion which is conditioned by Indian heritage or Indian culture, but Buddhism got spread throughout the world and became world's religion. Jainism could never stand out of India. If you ask a Jain to go out to Alaska and walk around naked, they cannot walk around. But what Buddha said is the essence lies in the giving up of your greed. So even Alaskan people can do it, Eskimos can do it, and even those people who are in Ecuador, they can do it. It's not related to how much clothes you're wearing. So even in the time frame wise, what Buddha said 2,600 years ago is still practiced, and no matter under what scientific method that you try to experiment it, you're able to come up with a proper solution. But in other religions, there are so many things which are wrong. And if there is a new method to justify the new idea in Catholic,
시작되는 시점부터 전부 다 틀린 얘기가 돼버린 겁니다.
From the time of Renaissance, or from the time of the beginning of science, everything became wrong. The Earth is not square, and also Earth is not center of everything, and the life was not caused by the God. Everything is wrong. Even Hinduism, the God of right, God of love, and all the gods who are more than 38,000, and also Hanuman. All these beliefs and all these aspirations from the God, they are almost like shamanism. It's not correct even according to the facts. But Buddhism, even after 2,600 years, or the philosophical truths, and also if you try to experiment it with scientific experiments, there isn't anything wrong with it. And also especially this thing about voidness,
이 부분이 개발이 안 되졌을 때 만약 불교가 이 공성 관계를 정확하게 얘기를 안 했다 그러면 지금 물리학이 이렇게
Buddhism did not
물리학이 제로나 마이너스 개념이 나올 수 있었는가? 나오지 않아요.
if Buddhism did not speak about voidness in this way, then the number 0 or minus could never have aroused.
이게 양자 물리학에서 다 통하는 얘기들이란 말이에요. 다 똑같은.
Because of the invention of voidness in Buddhism, we are able to come up with mathematical theory of 0 and also minus numbers.
그래서 시간적으로도 전혀 그게
So even as in the time-wise, although it's 2,600 years ago, you cannot just abandon it. There's no need to abandon it because whatever they said at the time is still applicable to us. But of course, since it was a language that was used 2,600 years ago, maybe the style of writing or style of speaking about it is different, but the essence of it is the same. The voidness, which was explained then, is still applicable to us. So all the chemists in abroad, they were also very shocked to find the detailed description of it. I think this will still apply even 2,000 to 3,000 years to come. If there's a human who aspires for happiness, they would love to study Buddhism. Even in the space-wise, it's not only India where Buddhism flourished.
당군 할아버지를 믿는 것은 한민족 외에는 아무도 그 생각하는 사람이 없잖아요. 중국 사람이 당군 할아버지 생각해요?
You know this belief in Tangun, the inventor of Koreans. No one except Tangun as the inventor of all of the human beings, but it's only Korean. But Buddhism is not the case. Buddhism is still respected and throughout the world, not only in India.
그 물이 그게 올라오거든. 그럼 그때는 이제 바람이 교체하면서 바람도 세게 불고 할머니가 영등 할머니가 올해는 쌀쌀하게 집 앞 바람을 쌀쌀 날리며 가네 뭐 그것을
When we have this Lotus Lantern Festival, there is also this belief that because the god who is looking at it is feeling a little disturbed, so she's blowing a hard wind, and so the lanterns are flowing from the down to upwards. But this is not true. If you take it to somewhere else, there will be no one accepting the theory. And even the theory that the world is caused by the God, I don't think a lot of people will believe it. Even in the space-wise, what Buddha said, whether it is space of Tibet or India or China or Korea or Japan or US, or whether it's a human, or whether it's not a human.
보편적 얘기다.
It's applicable to all. It's universal.
보편적 얘기 가운데 여러분 한번 생각해봐.
Think about it. This thing called compassion, this loving all other sentient beings, and you live for the happiness and also good of all other sentient beings. It's a universal theory because everyone aspires for it. There is no creature who lives for displeasure or unhappiness. So we know that what Buddha has spoken is a universal truth.
역사의 전개에서 증명되는 것이 2600년 동안 어떤 공간에서건 어떤 시간대에서건
So what Buddha has said is experimented throughout the space and throughout time, and it's always correct. Wherever you take it, they have been experimented and proved all these 2,600 years.
우리 것을 갖다 덮어 씌우는 그것도 아니라고.
And it's also not the case that where you destroy whatever was existing and you put something new.
그래서 그런 의미에서 일체지라는 건 깨달음이라는 것은 시간과 공간에 구애받지.
So this enlightenment is not conditioned by time and space.
모든 중생은 행복하기를 원한다는 것은 그거는 시간과 공간과 아무 상관없이.
As I told you, all creatures in this universe aspires for happiness. It's not conditioned by time or space. There's not even one creature in this world who lives in order to be unhappy. So the saying that Buddha has gained universal knowledge could be something like this, that you go out.
경전 얘기를 전부 다 하는데 요의와 불효, 요의라는 것은 뭐냐면 깨달음의 핵심을 바로 찔러서
When you're looking at a text, there could be two differentiations. One could be you're looking at the entrance, and the other one is the relative. You're doing the relative study. So when you're arguing with your husband, it could also be like, it's not absolutely wrong, but it's something like, think about it, maybe this is correct. So even nowadays they do this judgment in this way, 70% and also 30%. Relatively, there is no one who has done 100% wrong in this. That's also part of Buddhist theory. So just like when it was a red light, the grandmother ran and she had an accident. It's also grandmother's fault, maybe 60%, but the other driver who did not stop for the brakes also had some mistakes. Because no matter, regardless of the light, the person who's crossing has the priority. So the driver also has about 40% responsibility over the accident. I think maybe in Europe the responsibility is higher, maybe 100%. Even if the trespassers pass in the red light, maybe they live by heavier responsibility on the driver. So the road. But the thing is, in Korea, if you're the more expensive your car is, then people think that's all. So they look for more money from the drivers who drive more expensive cars. These things, useless things. So all these relative things could be something which is correct in this point, but is incorrect from the other point of time. But that has already made a difference in the two of them. So this is not the truth, but this is something that has to be relative truth. So it's only applicable to you, or it's only applicable to someone with a similar situation. I give you an example. Asase, who killed his father. After he killed his father, he had coup d'etat, and with the coup d'etat, he also put his mom into prison. Because his mother gave something to eat to his father. So after two of them died, he felt so miserable about it. If he forced these thoughts, then he only remembered killing his parents, and he got half mad, and carrying his long sword, he would kill so many slaves or maids who was working with him, and his cry of madness could be heard until long distance. They still have their castle remaining. The castle which was built like thousands of years ago is still remaining. On top of that castle, he would cry, and his cry could be heard all over to this place where Buddha was staying. So Buddha called him one day, and when he came to Buddha and he was kneeling in front of him, and Buddha said, yes, you can kill your father, you can also kill your mother. But this is something that's only applicable to him. But it's not normally acceptable teaching in a script, right? It's not something like you can kill your mother or you can kill your father. But in this situation, in order to prevent him from becoming totally crazy, he had somewhat consoled him. This kind of different rules is a special rule which is not applicable. But other things which we call all the Diamond Sutras or Avatamskara Sutra or the Sutra of the Lotus, we call they are universal and they are the same, or they can be still practiced even after millions of years. The wisdom of knowing everything arises from the consciousness. Even this, if you look at it in a detailed way, since we say it arises from the consciousness, some people say that whatever is arising from our consciousness is all agony. We call enlightenment as something of everything without agony. But if the enlightenment is without consciousness, that's already a death. You cannot gain enlightenment from unconsciousness because you are not aware of the fact that you have gained enlightenment. So everything is starting from consciousness. There's nothing that has been even categorized. It's almost like you just identify a particular category of being amongst the other beings. It's just that you have taken out the greed. You know, some of the vegetables, if you just take out the essence and drink it, you die because it's poisonous. But you put it in the rice wine and if you steam it, and if you steam it for 9 times, then the poison in the plant evaporates together with the alcohol, and it becomes a medicine. It's very helpful to bones.
자체가 우리 몸에서 뼈가 칼슘이 빠져나가는 것을 방지를 해줘.
It protects calcium from it protects calcium too in our body. So it becomes a medicine if you take out all the poison from it. But even the other medicine, 경옥고, the main essence is ginseng. So those people with bone problems are very benefited from it. So in our consciousness, all these things which are like toxins, if you remove them from our life, we call that enlightenment, and we call that pure consciousness. But normally people think those toxin things are the better ones. And they think that absence of consciousness is enlightenment, but absence of consciousness is nothing different from a corpse. So in Buddhism, when you do meditation, we start off with a morning prayer, and we make sure that you enter the right stages. In a person, if the thoughts disappear, then it's the person is not alive. So if you practice, it's almost like Taoism. If you practice Taoism for a long time, then a person becomes a little. Have you been there? He has a long beard and he has a very big belly. I think he also faces problems of high blood pressure. In Buddhism, when we say Samantha, and if you say the person lost consciousness or thought, it's a big thing. In Buddhism, we say your consciousness should be alive. For example, if you say Buddha's thought has always been there, but if Buddha's thoughts are not there, then you'll be sitting like this. Give me teachings of Buddha, but you'll be not knowing what to say. A disciple comes and asks for your teaching, and even if you teach for 45 years, a single thin book should be enough. Even in a human, even the wisdom comes from the thoughts, from the absence of agony. But you should not think of it as something that is dying. We are just trying to kill the agony, but we are not trying to kill your thoughts. If you take all the thoughts together in one area and say they are all agony, then it's not correct. The thought to study, is it also agony? But they explain it like so in Korea. Once someone told me, when they had the debate with Mayan, absence of thought, but Kamlashila told him that if this is total absence of thoughts, then who can have the thought to study? And then everyone was awestruck. So when you're studying Buddhism, you should not misunderstand. If you misunderstand, then that causes a lot of trouble in Buddhism. So those Himayana, you should observe your breath, and while you're breathing, You should have the consciousness alive, but you should only let go of your agony. If you're experimenting or if you're observing your breath, then you know what thought you are having at the moment. If you have a proper consciousness, you know that it's right thing to think about. But if it's a wrong thing, then you know it's better to stop them. So while practicing if you practice only samatha without all this knowledge, then you will eventually also fall sick. The wisdom of knowing everything is from the consciousness. So you should not say knowing is agony. Buddha has already spoke about agony. He has given a clear distinction. It's a sense of greed. Sometimes you say, if the person does not have a particular character, then he's a Buddha. It's almost like that. That makes us miserable. In order to make yourself feel better, or in order to remove yourself from those greeds, then you're happy. If you do not want darkness to be with you all the time, then the best way to brighten it, and that is by way of removing yourself from the greed and anger or hatred and also ignorance. When it is clouded, it does not mean that there is no darkness from the first time, but it is just that it's clouded. And if you're able to overcome then there will be a bright sunlight and you'll be able to see everything. It's almost like it's the same thing, like you're just lighting a candle and praying for your son's happiness or son's score. But when you're lighting, what should be lighting towards? You can light it by removing greed. Then people say, you say you are lighting the light of wisdom. But then they say the act of trying to light the wisdom light means you're trying to remove it or trying to remove it from your heart. In one of the comedy series, there's this comedy. A couple comes and in the end, some younger kid comes and say, this world is either this or that. So you go to a hospital and say, if you don't want injection in your hand, then you can get it on your palm. Sometimes I listen to what they say as the teaching. So when I watch it, it's not like the olden comedy where it was mainly by the body, but nowadays the kids nowadays, they have a little philosophy in their comedy. they also mock the society even a
이
little.
세상은 밝은 거 아니면 어두운 거잖아요, 그죠?
So this world,
밝은 거 아니면
this world is not even bright and not even
우리가 이제
dark.
탐욕심을
This world is either bright or either
탐욕심이
dark.
없으면 밝은 거야.
If you don't have greed, it's bright. If you have greed, then it's dark.
전등불을 크게 켜놓고 어두워. 안 돼. 흐른
If you have too much greed in you, then no matter how big the light, like you have in your room, it's still going to be dark.
행동마다 죽을 짓만 하고 그렇게 생겨.
If all your behaviors or all your speeches are filled with greed,
지 이제 욕심 부리는데 안 되면 승질 내고.
then it's going to be dark.
헛짓을 막 해버리기 시작해.
If you are angry or if you only want something, if everything does not go as per your greed, then
여러분들도 정신 안 차리면 애들까지도 싫어한다.
your world is going to be dark all the while. So if you guys do not have a proper consciousness, then even the kids will start not liking you. If you're ever to do only bright actions, or if you're only going to take bright actions, or if you're only saying the bright things, then no matter how old you become, your children will not make fun of you. But if you're dark, then they will ignore you. It's not only spiritually, but also mentally. Why are my parents like this? She thinks the soybean paste is not soybean paste. Is it so? So the most respectable. So if you want to be respected, at least by your children, then you should not live in a dark way because of greed and also because of ignorance. So those people who come to temples and expect something, or they want to pray for something, then the kids, because they think it's too dark, they go to church. Once I went to do a little prayer, and I sat there, and he called me during this time. He called me during this time when it was the peak season for the final test. So everyone was praying for days, and I came there, and when I came there, everyone was looking at me with a sullen face because they were so tired. They seemed to have a lot of money because they were wearing good dresses, but they don't try to listen what I was saying. But they prayed because they prayed for something. They prayed for even more greed. But if you pray for something for these ancient beings, then you don't feel too tired. But since they pray for their goodness or their wellness, they were looking too tired. And they were praying for my daughter and my son's score, and their luck and their life. In front of this kind of people, when it was so dark, he called me to pray. I'm not a comedian. I won't go there to show some comedy. At least, even if I had a dark heart normally, or even if I'm not wise, at least they should have this kind of heart that today I will just come and say whatever he's saying. So it should be something like you emptied your bowl to go and beg for some food to eat. If you are looking for something, then at least your bowl should be empty. You won't be taught in that way.
그래서 그리고 원인과 조건에서 발생한 개념에 의해 생깁니다. 그러니까 이것도 뭐냐면
And it
이런
is also caused
그
by
일체
the
존재가
consciousness
이루어지는
that
것들은
from the
그
cause
원인이
and also
있고
condition.
그 주변 조건에 있어요. 이 원인은 뭐냐 보리심이라고.
So all knowledge or Buddha's
그렇잖아요.
wisdom should also have the cause and also the condition.
그다음에 육바람이 조건이에요.
But the sense of bodhisattva or six parameters, it all becomes a condition for them. And if you're able to achieve all of them, then you become Buddha. But you might think that you don't need the sense of bodhisattva and you don't need six parameters. Sometimes I think maybe those. Sometimes I think people do not look for the ways to practice these six parameters, but they just expect like a sudden blessing.
그러니까 분명히 조건 원인과 조건에 의해서 모든 것은 발생되어지고 소멸된다는 것은 부처님 가르침에
So
철저하게
everything is caused by everything is from the everything is caused by cause and condition. This is Buddha's teaching. But if there's no cause, if there's no condition, and if there's no consequence, then this is not correct.
어떤 결과가 지금 왔잖아요.
So even in our life, when we are facing some consequences, if you analyze it, then you know from what cause you are facing this consequence. So
자꾸 자기 변명을 하지 않으면 솔직하게 안으로 들여다보면 뭐 땀씩
so if you so if you're not trying to justify yourself by only hiding your complexes, then you know what has caused that consequence. You know eventually what has caused you that situation or that result.
이것은 일체지 역시 그러니까 깨달음 역시 원인 없이는 생겨나지도 않고 조건 없이는 커지지도 않는다.
This means even Buddha's wisdom or all wisdom is not cause without cause and without condition. This is something that you can know precisely. If not, it means that all knowledge can be caused without cause. But if you say so, then there's no difference from Christianity. So the God that
그는 무슨 원인과 무슨 조건에 의해서 하나님 됐느냐고 물어본다고.
it's almost like there's a God, there's a supreme God, the Father, but what has caused him or under what situation? But he became the Father. So it's the same thing. They all become frauds.
원인과 조건 없이는 발생이 안 돼.
Without cause and without condition, this cannot be happening.
원래부터 있는 것이라 그러면 어떻게 뭐로 그걸 갖다가
If you say that has been existing since long time ago, from the beginning, then why do you try to develop it? Because it has been existing since its existence. Then what is the point of having Buddha, or what is the point of developing something?
이렇게 되잖아.
How can someone like me be a Buddha?
그렇다고 여러분을 쫄대라고 얘기한 건 아니야. 부처님 앞에다
Well, I don't mean you're mere people. I mean you look like mere people in front of Buddha.
만약 그렇지 않다면 일체적인 원인 없어 생겨날 수 있다는 건데.
But not the case.
다 일체지의 상태라는 얘기가 그러니까
Then, as I said, if it's not the case, then the Buddha's knowledge can be caused by without cause. But in that case, the all consciousness will become. It means all consciousness are already at the stage of Buddha's knowledge, and that becomes like a condition that when everything is Buddha. Like even murder is a Buddha, even selling is a Buddha. These things are not possible.
모든 의식이 다 부처라면
If all consciousness are
지금 우리가 이렇게 있는
Buddhas,
모든 의식이 다 부처라면
if all the consciousness that we have right now are
원래부터
Buddha,
부처라는 것은 있었다는 얘기가 되고 본래부터
then it
있었다는
becomes
얘기는 지금
the
우리가
saying
하고
that
있는
Buddha has
모든
been
의식이
existing
다
from its
부처니까
existence,
수행을 할
and
필요가 없고
whatever we
감옥수도
do
만들 필요가
now
없고
is
다니면서 사람을 다
is
때리기도
Buddha.
필요가
So
없고
there's
이렇게
no point of practicing. So there's no point of making jail. So there's no point
이
of catching
논리적
criminals.
모순에 지금 신을 믿는 종교들이 대부분 이
So
논리적
this contradictory
본래부터 있었기 때문에
rational idea,
나는
people fall
절대
for
그만
it
믿으면 내가 어떤 행동을
because it
하더라도
has been existing since existence.
하나님께 도착할 수
Whatever
있다는
action I
생각을
take,
할 수 있단 말이야.
I can go to paradise. People can have that ideology or notion because it has been existing since existence.
내가 지금 본래부터 있는 것이니까 내가 지금 정화해야 될 것이 없다 그 말이야.
So since it has been existing already, there's no reason for me to try hard for it.
그러니까 이제
If it was created by Almighty, then my act of crimes are also caused by Almighty.
그런데 그러면 따져놓고 보면 뱀은 누가 창조를 했느냐 그러면
It's almost like saying that the Eve ate apple, but then it's also the thing that who caused the snake, but then snake has been existing, and all these things, all the repetitions, it becomes a saying that there are so many things that has been existing even before the existence of the Father.
그런 것들이 이게
So these
모든
things,
의식이 다 일체지가 모든 의식이 다 깨달음이 될 수는 없다 그 말.
all knowledge or all consciousness cannot be Buddha's wisdom, or it cannot be all knowledge. Everything is caused by cause and the condition. This is almost similar to the saying that objects are caused without any cause or conditions, and they are existing everywhere or anywhere, and or could be the saying that they don't exist in totally.
모든 것이 다 일체지가 본래부터 있었던 것이라면 수월심도 본래부터 있었던
If we
사람이
say
엄마 아빠가
all knowledge has been existing since long time ago on your existence, then there's no need to have your parents either. And then that comes the notion that the mother gave the birth to Jesus.
뭐라고? 불성이 본래부터 있는 것이면 그럼 그게 절대적인 건
If you say Buddha has been there already, or if you say that there is absolute Buddha in you, then
그러니까 이제 무슨 얘기냐면
if it's already there in you, you just have to find it. When you say you just have to find it, then what action I take, whether it's a good action or bad action, you just have to find the Buddha. But that is the controversy behind this notion. So this is not something that has been there already. So think about it. This thing called our thoughts, it's not there from its beginning, but it's caused by some condition. And because it's caused by the conditions, depending on the conditions, all the thoughts are different. But if you think about it, that is this thought been there since? It is not there, right? If it's not there, then how is it aroused? So it's incorrect to say it wasn't there, and it is also incorrect to say it was there. So this thing called voidness, zero. This has all possibilities. This is diverse possibilities. So
없어서 못 나온 거
if you
아닙니까?
say this thought has been there, then this thought,
이건 본래부터 있는 것도 아니고 본래부터 없었던 것도 아니다. 그럼 이제 내가
if you say this thought has been there since the beginning, then it's also controversial to say this thought was not been there. So it was there, but it was not there.
플러스 마이너스가 딱
So we say it has been
중성자가
existing, but it has not been existing.
이제 보이소. 중성자가 나온단 말이야. 플러스고 마이너스. 이게 이제
If you have both plus and minus, then there is a neutral status in between.
이게
This is
플러스 마이너스 중성자가 없는 상태는
this is part of energy.
발생이 안 된 상태는 공상태란 말이야.
But if you say if this energy is not caused, then we call this voidness.
동시에 마이너스 탁식이 중성을
But
탁생.
due to some condition, if the plus is caused, then the minus is also caused, and the neutral status is also caused.
탁 사라지면 이것도 사라지고 이것도 딱 사라져.
If one disappears, and the other disappears, and the later disappears too.
본래부터 있었던 거냐면 없단 말이야 이게. 그
But if you ask if all different functions were there, they were not there. But if you say they were not there, they cannot exist. So this means, depending on the relation, they can be aroused and they can also disappear. Unless until you bring out the plus, the minus does not come out. So the nature of Buddha in you is not, it cannot come out if you do not have the sense of bodhisattva in your heart. But if you already have the sense of bodhisattva in you, then there's no need to look for it. If that's your theory.
어디에 초록색 어디? 책이 어디 있나? 어? 책이 없어. 내가 초록색은 앞뒤로 다 읽고 있는데.
It's not in the book. I read all the books, but it's not in the book that the Buddha is already in there, inside of you.
이제 한국 사람들이 공성에 대해서 잘 몰라서 그래. 몰라서.
That's only said because many Koreans, they do not have a proper understanding of the voidness. They're saying it because they're ignorant.
그러면 없는 거냐면 없는 것도 아니고.
Voidness is not existing, but if you ask if it's not existing, then if you say it is or actually not there, or it is not existing at all, then that means no matter how much you try, it can be caused. But because this is in the sense of status of voidness, if you're able to provide a certain condition or the cause, then all these fractions, they arise, and that is the beginning.
미분자, 원자, 분자 이렇게 나오고 그 다음에 나중에 이 세포까지 발전을.
All the breakups in the molecular forms, they are also the same.
힉스 입자 같은 경우도 그렇습니다.
They have been scientifically proven.
그러니까 여러분이 항상 이게 이제 있다 그러면 단견이고 없다 그래도 단견이야. 그 유무가 다 단견이야. 그러면 있는 거냐면 지금 상태에서 있는 게 아니야, 그지?
The saying that it's existing or it's not existing is the same.
자꾸 헷갈려? 얼마나 얘기 많이 해.
I have said this numerous times, but you're still confused. How many times did I say?
이거 내가 성냥 통에 한 통 다 사라지도록 해줘. 이게 불이 있어요.
I have spoken this to you until end of this matchbox. Is there a fire in here?
이렇게 얘기할 때 이게 불이 있어요, 없어 그러면
If I asked if there's a fire here, then it's not there, but it is there.
사실적 현실에 접근하기가 그만큼 어려워요. 어려운데
It's that difficult to approach the reality. It's not existing in this status, but
있으면 만약에 있다라고 하면 이러면 안 없어져야지.
if you say it is existing, then if I blow it, then it should not disappear, right?
그러면 여러분
It is already existing, they cannot disappear. But now, is it existing? It's the same, it hasn't met its relation, so it is there, but it's not there.
없다고 그러면 요러면 안 일어나야 돼.
But if you say, if it's not existing, then it should not, the flame should not happen.
요렇게 할 때 이게 지금 있습니까? 없습니까? 있습니까? 그러면 없는 것도 아닙니다. 이렇게 합니다. 그래서 불멸
Then at times like this, you say, is it existing or is it not existing? Then your answer should be, it is not. It is.
그럼 또
It is also not the fact. It is not existing.
있는 것도 아닙니다. 이렇게 됩니다.
Then you say it is not. It is also. It is also. You can also say it is also not there. Because if you blow it, it goes. This is the truth.
아 있기도 하고 없기도 하고 그럼 뭐 그런 얘기가 있냐고 그랬더니 또 사람들이.
But you cannot say it is there, but it is not there at the same time.
그럴 때는 있기도 하고 없기도 하고 하는데 상황 따라서 이게 요럴 때는
When you say it is there, but it's not there, it is all dependent on the situations.
한 60%밖에
At times like this, you say you cannot say that it is not there.
있다라고 말할 수가 없습니다.
But if you do this, then you can also say that it is there.
인연 따라 일어났다 인연 따라 사라집니다. 요 얘기가 맞는 얘기야.
So it is caused by relations and it disappears with the relations.
그 반야신경에도 부처님께서 생도 아니고 멸도 아니다. 요럴 때는 생이 아니야.
Even in one of the scriptures, even in one of the sutras, Buddha said it is also not life and it is also not existence of life.
불성도 마찬가지로.
But this is the truth.
불성 여기에
It's the same as the sense of Buddha in you.
불성이라 치면 계속 있다라고 했을 때는
If you take this flame that's existing as a Buddha,
없잖아.
then
그죠?
there is no reason to light a fire.
그러니까 지금 제로 상태란 말이야. 제로 상태라는 것은
So
없는
this
것이
is the
아니고
status of zero.
있는 것도 아직 아닌 상태야.
The status of zero doesn't mean it is not there, but it doesn't mean it is also there.
내가
There's a situation where it is not there, but it is there.
일으키면 그어서부터 성냥불을
But
켜야
if I start the sense of bodhisattva, then it starts just like the match.
그러면 이제 여기다가 성냥불을 켜놓고 불쏘시개를 얹고 장작불을 이제 잘 탄다. 그게 육바람이야.
And on this, if I do practice and if I practice this experiment as well, then it becomes the practice.
그러면 그게 밝힐 수가 없잖아요. 그죠? 그래서 불성이라는 것은 지금 불성론을 주장해가지고 불성
So the sense of Buddha.
있는 것이고 그것만 깨달으면 된다는 그런 쌍키학파의 얘기가
If you say that the Buddha is already there in you and you just have to find it, then it's the same as the other.
불성이라는
It's the same as the other speeches. But Buddha said it is not so.
자꾸 지금 컨센들이 얘기할 때 자꾸 영원하고 영원한 나도 죽도 않은 영원한 불성이 있고 그런 소리는 사기치고 앉았단 말이에요.
So when you say a lot of great scholars, they say that the Buddha which never fades away, then it is all false, it is all fraud.
그 부처님 제자들에서 논쟁을 하다 몇 번 피토하고 쓰러지고 져서 엎어진 교단이 하나 있어.
There's a sect in India who had, when they tried to have a debate with Buddha's disciples, they lost so many times. It's the same as you're saying.
무수상행식이야. 공중에는 여기에 지금 비어 있는 상태에서는 여기에 무수상행식이잖아. 감각기관이라든지 이런 게 없잖아, 그죠? 무한히 그 굉장히 반사식이 쉬운 얘기야.
In the sense of voidness, then there's no eyes, there's no nose, there's no seeing.
이게 없으니까 저것도 보일 리가 없고.
Because you have no eyes, you cannot see the others.
그죠?
And because you have no eyes and you have
기계,
no
무
consciousness that you
성대, 무
see, and
촉도도 없고
because
무
no nose,
의식의 세계도 본래는
no
없었으니까.
no ears and no sense of consciousness.
무보면 거기에는 무명이라는 것도 없었고 발생하면서 내가 집착하면서 무명이 생긴 것이고.
In the voidness, then there's also no,
무노사인 그 세계에서 뺑뺑 돌면 무명이 다 한 것도 없이 계속 돌아. 무노사.
because it's already void, there's nothing to be void anymore.
그러나
And in this status, there's also no aging and no death.
맨날 늙고 죽어.
But in the
거기에 사성제도 본래는 없어 공성에는. 무지영무덕이라 거기는 지혜라는 것도 공성의 지혜라는 것이 아니 우리가 밝음이라는 것이 어둠을 상대해서 일어난 것이니까 지혜라는 것도 무명업식을 상대해서 일어난 것이니까 공성
because darkness is caused by light, which is in relative. So if there is no wisdom, then there's also no.
이 제로 베이스가 돼야 영무덕이라야 이 무소덕이 무덕을 얻는 거야. 아무것도 얻는 거 없이 다 버린 상태의 제로 베이스에 가는 것이 소득이에요.
So there's no benefit. So the thing is, you give up everything, and when you are able to achieve the sense of voidness, and that's the benefit. And because you are actually looking for voidness, there is nothing that blocks your heart. Everything is blocked from your heart. There is no fear. There is nothing that's blocking you. What is there to be afraid of? This is the Heart Sutra, the Pranya Paramita. We all think in a different way. Oh, I will have no wishes if I have a son. What no hopes? I've seen so many of you wishing for more after having sons. You say you're expecting for nothing else if you're healthy, but then you want money, and if you have money, then you want to become members of parliament. After you become members of parliament, you want to become a governor, and then after you become a governor, you aspire to become a president. So when you are looking for the Heart Sutra, then all these thoughts will disappear from you. That you will give up the ways to live in arguments. Even if you don't know, you have to act as if you know if you become members of parliament.
원리전동서 구경열마 그래서 마침내는 끝에는 부처님처럼 된다. 구경열마 3세 재벌이 과거 현재
So after it you become like Buddha.
반야바라밀타를 의지하는 까닭에 그러니까 공성을 체득하는
because you rely on these parameters, because you are relying on the voidness, doesn't mean there is a Buddha in you. Because you are relying on the voidness, then only you can gain the final enlightenment.
고지반야바라밀타 시 대신 코를 알라 이 지혜라는 것은 정말 대신자 정말 신통한 주문이라는 것은 진실이라는 것이 신통한 부처님 말씀. Wisdom
is really amazing or magnificent truth.
시 무등산이야. 무등산이 비교할 데가 없다는 뜻이에요. 그 무등산을 갖다 해석도 못. 그
It's incomparable.
저 향토 사학한다는 놈들이 헛소리를 했었더라고. 무등산이 뭐 무등처럼 생기고 어쩌고 저쩌고 깨끗했더니 강주에서 그 호남에서 비교할 산이 없다 그래서
They were
무등이야.
saying that
반대쪽에서
Mudungsan, they were just giving a first meaning to it, but Mudungsan actually means there's nothing that can be compared to it. It's incomparable.
무등등주야. 비교할 그 무상정등제가 안욕따라 삼약삼보리이기 때문에 최고의 깨닫는 거기 때문에 나 인도 가서 힌두 교도들한테 물어보니까
Because it is the best,
무상욕이
best enlightenment.
최고의 깨달음을 이룬 분이라 저들도 다 인정해.
I even asked these yogis in India, and they said Buddha has achieved the final enlightenment. He's the
스스로 그것을 체득하면 전부 다 능제 일체 고통이 싹 사라진다.
if you while achieving it, all the sufferings they disappear.
사실이고 불에 헛된기다.
This is the actual truth.
여러분에게 그 진언을 하나 주겠다. 가세 어서.
For that, I will give you some.
깨달음에서 여러분 빨리 그렇게 되라.
For that, I will give you something. Let's go fast to that to the enlightenment. Did you all do? We finished our 6 parameters. We finished the whole sutra.
일체 종지라는 것은 그 공성을
It's clear, right?
한 상태란 말이야. 그 본질적인 것을 확실히 아는 상태.
So it's a status where you have attained the voidness. So there is no agony which was written already. It is not that there is agony. It is just they are all shadows that we have made in our life, and we live full by the shadows. Once someone told me, yesterday I was very scared, and when I asked why, he changed the lights in his house.
쏙 들어가니까 그림자가 하나가 쑥 자기를 따라오더라는 거야. 그 전에는 그걸 못 봤는데.
When I entered the house, there was a shadow following me. Before I didn't see, but after changing the lights, I felt like someone was following me in the house, and I was so scared. And he came asking me for the consultation, and he was like, he thinks that there is a ghost following him, and I asked him, did you change the light? And he said he changed the light to 2 different directions, and so I told him that when you start, just switch on the other light and go, then you will see the shadow. And he said like, oh, as I did as you told me, and I could see the shadow. I don't have to see to know.
사실 우리가 그런 그림자들에 쏘가가지고 이게 전부 그림자들이거든요.
So in reality, we're actually fooled by these shadows.
그림자가 좀 못생겼으면 어때?
What's wrong if the shadow is a little ugly?
아니, 근데 나는 내가 그 그림자 극을 하는 것을 봤거든. 그림자 극을 하는데
I've seen some shadow play, and they never wear lipstick because the lipstick is not shown on the shadow play.
뭘 그렇게 치장을 하려고 난리를 치는지 알 수가 없어.
I don't know why you try so hard to decorate this shadow.
그 험악한 짓을 왜 해?
Why do you do something that's so meaningless?
그러니까 오랫동안 했던 것이건 말건 간에 그게 그 옳지 않다.
Whether it's something that you have been doing for a long time or not, if you think it's void, then you should just leave it. If you think this is not right, then from that moment you should leave it. Because of this relation and that relation, you have to go here, you have to go there. You don't have to do that. In order to study, they are obstacles because even Tibetan monks, when they study, for them it's for sure. If they think that it's a harm to their study, or if you think that the person is not, or if you think that the person can cause wrong feelings from your heart, then they will just bid you goodbye, and there will be no relations afterwards. It's not only the monks, but even the commons, even other people. They will also think that the person is a bad person, and so I don't, and so they would not try to help the other person.
저놈 나쁜 짓 하든지 말든지 내가 가서 좀 알랑방울 끼워가지고 나도 좀 뜯어먹자 그 얘기 아니야. 가서 알랑방울 끼운 게.
Your act of going and pleasing them is almost something that's similar to you trying to gain some pleasure out of this act. But those people who practice Buddha's laws, they should not do it. If it's wrong, then you should just leave it. Wherever it is.
그냥 뭐 장사 속으로 하면 뭐 그냥 그런가 보다 그런 거고 장사 속으로 해도 속은 있어야 돼. 예?
Even if you do it for business, you should know, you should have at least some sense of right and wrong. You should not leave out everything.
이 반야신경이 결코 어려운 경이 아니야 사실.
This Heart Sutra is not a difficult sutra. It is just something that Buddha said in a very short span of time. I think Buddha said about it only 4 to 5 minutes, but because they have very high standards, it's almost like you see that the essence is the voidness. It does not just stay momentarily, but it changes. I think Buddha said so. All the different senses inside us, I think it's the same. It's the same that they rotate amongst the essence. In the status of voidness, even I don't exist or I don't die. I just maintain as a shadow. Buddha has spoken about it for 21 years, and everything that he spoke about is this.
이것은 마치 사물이 원인과 조건 없이 발생하여 언제나 어디서나 존재하거나 아니면 완전히 존재하지 않는다는 말과 똑같은 것입니다.
This is same to the fact that in case if there is something that is caused without depending on anything else, then that means there is something that cannot be restrained by anything, and that means that they can never become the absolute knowledge. Nowadays, when you have so many things arising, so many things that's caused, we are not really sure about the cause. So that's why even when you have a disease, it's difficult to cure them. But just because you don't know what is the reason, doesn't mean the reason does not exist. It's just that the reason is there, but you are not aware of the reason. So you need to know So if you know the reason precisely, or if you know the reason accurately, then curing is very simple. So if there is something that is caused without a reason or without a cause, then we cannot eliminate that and we cannot change that. If the sense of Buddha is already there, and if it's already caused without a reason, then that
그럼
has no
그거는 마치
relation
뭐가
to
절대
any of
그렇게
others.
아트만처럼 있으니까 불성이라는 게
So
있으니까
that's almost
그
like
아트만을 대체한
the
개념이란
saying
말이야.
that because it's like Atma that's already
한마음성 같은
there,
경우 한 마음이라는 데 의지하고 살아라
and you're aspiring
그렇게
for it.
얘기합니다.
So
그건
when you have
아무것도
is a
뭐를
one
대체한
heart or her
신을
heart
대체한 것이란 말이야.
means
그건 불교 아주
it
불교
means
전불교가 아니야.
you should live aspiring for the
성공이 있고
heart.
외도지식을 하기 때문에 지옥 갈 짓이야.
If you just keep teaching them false ideas, then you're wearing the monk robe, then it's an act that you should go to hell. So you should have a clear consciousness. So this the nature of Buddha. If you say it has been there since its beginning, and if it's not caused by any cause, and if you cannot change it, and if you cannot make it on your own, then it's a wrong thing. But for us, we say you just have to find it.
절대적인 것이니까 발견도 안 돼.
If you say it in the other way, then it is something that we cannot even find it.
촉발할 수 없는 것이면 그렇다면 그 어떤 것도 일체지가 될 수 없습니다. 그렇기 때문에 지금 이제 생각해요. 만약에
If it's something that we cannot even restrict them, and that means that nothing can become absolute. That means no matter how much we try to do ascetic practice, but if there is something that does not change, then it means there's no point in us to do the practice.
그래서 그네들은 구원 방법이 그 신을 절대적으로
So those people, their way of redemption is that they have a blind faith to God, and they expect the they expect the God to save them. So there can be no ways, no methods for them to do ascetic practice.
이 말은 만약 다른 원리가 조건에 의하여 생기는 것이 아니라면
This also means
것으로 속박될
that
이유가
if an object is not caused by other cause and other condition, then it means there's no reason for it to be restricted. If not, then there is no chance of anything becoming absolute knowledge or Buddha's wisdom.
발견만 해버리면 그냥 되는
If you say enlightenment has been existing since long time ago, and if you just have to find it, then
불성이라는 게 있는 것이니까 그게 있는 것을 그냥 나중에
you think that because the Buddha or enlightenment is already there, you just have to find it.
아트만 진짜 참 나라는 것이 내가 발견만 하면 된다 이렇게 생각하는 것이거든.
It's just the same as the thought that you just have to find the true knowledge. And that becomes an idea which is not correct.
그렇지 않다면 어떤 것도 일체지가 될 수 있는 가능성은 없어요. 따라서 기능적으로 움직이는 현상은
Therefore,
생길 수 있는 것이지 언제나 발생하는
the phenomenon of moving in a functional way is something that's caused when at a particular condition at a particular time, but it doesn't mean that it is always there. It is always produced. Therefore, when required conditions are provided at a particular time, and if there is no object that's obstructing it, then all our consciousness under whatever phenomenon can change to the absolute knowledge. If the freedom of consciousness is achieved, then it's mainly two things that disturbs it. They are ego and stubbornness. The ego says that the sense of I is always there because the sense of I is eternal. You have this greed and also agony arising, and the stubbornness is also disturbing because it is obsessed with the sense of I in your consciousness, so it disturbs your practice. These two things disturb your freedom of your consciousness. But for us, we try to gain something by relying on these things, but we can only have a freedom, a free consciousness when we are away from it. Someone told me once,
애 설전에 죽어서 지금 상중인데요. 상중인데 집에 차례를 지내야 됩니까?
the person died during our Lunar New Year. So, do I have to make offering for him or not? What do you have to do?
지 맘대로
Do as you wish.
지 맘대로인데 지 맘대로인데 그 말이 참 그 안에 함정이
Here, there is a trap in this. If you don't want to have offering to the dead ancestor, then you don't have to do it. There's something called if you do not wish to. The trap here.
지금 지내고 싶다라는 것과 지내기 싫다라는 것에 어두운 가리진 게
This means that there is something. The darkness is already hiding the sense of not wishing to do it.
죽음이라는 데 대해서 모르는 두려움에서
The darkness is caused from your fear of unknowing from of the death.
아니 내가 그렇게 얘기했었어. 하고 싶으면 하라고? 예?
Do you know what I told him?
아니 그렇게 안 한다니까. 그래서
I didn't tell him if he wishes to do it, do it. That's not what I told him.
그냥 하고 싶은 대로 하라 그러면 그 사람이 하기 싫다라.
If I tell him do as you wish, then
하기 싫다라는 것도 뭔가 그 죽음에 대해서 모르기 때문에 두려움이 있잖아요.
because of his fear for death, he might
그 피해를 덜 받는 거 아닌가 이
think that he not doing it will give him less harm.
좀더 편해지지 않을까?
But if he
생각을 하는데 두 가지
if he do it, then maybe he will do it from the wish to get some benefits. And whatever action here he takes,
두려움을 없애줘요.
should be he would be filled with some first thoughts. So what you have to do is the first thing you have to remove his fears. So you have to tell him that making offerings to your ancestor has got nothing to do with the celebration of Lunar New Year.
공달에 9월달이 공달이니까 그때 할까요?
Some people also come and ask me.
맨날 공달이죠.
Some people also come and ask me, do you think it's fine for me to move the grave of my ancestors? And they say
실체가 없는 달이니까
maybe in September is better because the moon is not there. But for me, each time there is no moon because we call it the voidness of moon. But the movement of the grave has got nothing to do with the cause and effect of the house, of the household. But if you think that
뭐 행사가 없어.
if you think that it was because of the tradition, then it's a time. It's during September. There was no celebration or so, and so that's why they had a lot of these things going on during September.
삼중으로 해서 집안이 가난해지지 않는다 그런 얘기.
And also, when you also say when you also pick up dates for for moving a house, it's also because in olden times, because people didn't have so much money. In order to save some money, they chose that days where they could get a lot of workers.
제일 좋은 게 청명한신날 그때가 딱 시기가 맞거든. 잔디 옮기기도 좋고 나무 옮기기도 좋고 그때 그냥.
So I usually recommend people to do it on the days when the grass can grow well, and also when the rain comes up.
그때 기후적으로도 좋고.
It's due to the climate.
집안에 무슨 일이 없겠습니까?
And when they ask me about when they ask me if there will be nothing happening because of the movement, then I tell them that if the ghost comes and disturbs your household or harms your household, I tell them, come and tell me, I will take care of it. After I said so, they were asking me, won't they harm us? No, they won't.
반풍자가 돼요. 이게요, 관상도 관상, 족상, 뭐 무슨 상 할 것 없이 제일
You know, you should not be focused on the reading of the face or reading of your palms or palm reading, but you should always have a beautiful heart.
복스럽게 쓰면 그 사람이 잘 살아요.
Even if the person is ugly, if he or she has a beautiful heart, the person lives well.
부자가 돼가지고 뭐 부모 묘자리를 갖다 보러 다니고 뭐 묘자리를 뒤에다가 가묘를 써놓고 3년을 보러 돌아다니고 그것도 부모 묘자리를 다 좋은 데 쓴다는 의도는 끝으로 볼 때는 굉장히 좋은 거
Now
같아요.
there was a rich people when they went around looking for the grave for their parents for 3 years. But in here, maybe externally it may look good because you think that they're looking for the happiness of your parents, but actually it is also false because you're actually aspiring for your own happiness. If you have the sense of doing good to your parents, then your heart is very beautiful, and because of your beautiful heart, you become rich.
자식도 따라서 그 효도를 할 거예요.
And your kids will also follow the same.
그렇게 되는 것이고.
So everything is depending on your heart.
신구의 사법에 있지 딴 데 있지 않아. 알겠죠?
You understand?
마음으로 하는 게 그러니까 뭐라고
So
그러더라.
Buddhism should be practiced from the heart.
가리면 안 돼.
So you should not try to block something.
가리면 부분이 안 들어올 거야.
Even now, if your heart is blocked from your wish of going home, then you cannot listen to it.
지금 시장에서 만나기로 했는데
Oh, I have to confess, I have to meet someone in the market at 12:30.
그럼 안
If you have this kind of thoughts, then this will not come to you.
특정 생물성이 이제 언제나 발생하는 그러므로 어떤 특정한 때에 필요한 조건이 이루어지고 방해하는 조건이 없으면
Therefore,
모든 현상에 대한 지식을 갖춘 일체시로 전환할 수 있습니다. 그러니까 우리가
Therefore, if you have all the required conditions and if there is no conditions that disturbs, then your consciousness can change all phenomenon to the absolute knowledge which has knowledge.
방해하는 조건을 갖다가 사라지게 한다. 그걸 자유라 그래. 내 멋대로 하는 것을
We call this freedom. We don't call freedom as something that you do whatever you want to do, but it's removing the deeds of that disturbs it. If you do it, then you can know everything without any blockage.
아시겠죠?
Understand, right? Some said,
영감쟁이만 생각하면 앞이 깜깜해져 버린다.
each time I think about my husband, I see darkness.
생각하면 앞이 깜깜해지고 그냥 자식만 생각하면 앞이 깜깜해져.
When I think about my kids, I see darkness. So I told the person to leave your thought of your husband.
그렇게 지가 이제 생각을 놔버리면
If you give up your thoughts, then it will work out.
자 끝내겠습니다.
Let's end.